Users of Reddit, what was the fastest way you have seen someone ruin their life? When I was an instructor in a drinking driver program, a young man, 17 years old, was referred to the program for counseling. The case had been handled by the court as a minor in possession of alcohol, not as a drunk driving case. We had 3 one-hour counseling sessions in which to help the young man get a good look at his drinking and its risks, instead of the 14 weeks of 2-hour groups he would have attended if his case had been handled as a drunk driving. The young man completed his 3 sessions and made clear that he had learned nothing. A few weeks later, celebrating his 18th birthday, he got into his car and headed down a country road at 70 miles per hour, and hit a tree. He was dead at the scene. Straight up. Bartender story. This drunk woman I was serving next to me was out with her friends and they kept on asking her to live a little and kiss a guy that was in the group with them. After about an hour of glancing over, she did finally give in. One of the friends of hers posted the whole thing on Snapchat. Next time that they went to that bar, say a week or so later, I saw the same girl with 2 of her friends from that night talking to her in a serious tone. From what they were saying between ordering drinks, it turns out that girl was married and her husband saw the Snapchat, and when she got back home, he was gone. He took his essentials and left, and she said he sent the divorce papers in the mail. So, yeah, one decision and her life pretty much took a 180-degree turn. I felt bad, but I'm just an onlooker, and well, I hear a lot of stories this way and sometimes see them happen myself. A 16-year-old, at the time, murdered my friend's dad for money. He tried to hide his face but didn't hide his tattoos. He was tried as an adult, and last I checked, he got something like 40 or 50 years. Sometimes I think about that and imagine what it's like to spend your youth in prison. Not that I feel bad for him. 16 with tattoos is wild to think about. Was he in a street gang? I think so, but not entirely sure. Stopped taking his bipolar meds because he was feeling good. His wife held out impressively long while he threw away what was essentially his dream job and ruined many other relationships. Now divorced, surviving from manic episode to manic episode. Ex-wife still lets him see his son, but he seems to be making every effort to burn that bridge. As someone who is bipolar, I can relate to his stopping taking meds because he was feeling good when I was younger. However, every time I did that was disastrous, and I ended up in a manic episode so bad to the point of needing to be hospitalized. Needless to say, I don't stop taking my meds these days. It can definitely ruin my life. It was my 9th grade English teacher. He was beloved around the school. One of the few black male educators we had. He meant a lot to us. He was also the coach of the girls' basketball team. Apparently he was having an affair with one of the players and her mother. Both relationships were wrong, but with an underage girl. Yikes. It gets worse. He got the girl pregnant. The mom found out and started to blackmail him. Said she'll go to the Board of Education. Pretty much ruined his career. 2 days before the first day of my sophomore year, police found him dead in his car. He shot himself. It was all over the local news. Us students and pretty much the entire town found out about the affair after he died. It was so somber the first day back. I still think about him every once in a while. Like he could have president of the Board of Education or something more. It's sad that a lot of these stories end in death. I'm sorry you went through it, but it bothered me when you said the mother telling on him was how his career would have gotten ruined. He ruined his life/career by screwing an underage. Yeah. You're absolutely right. After reading it, I could have used better grammar. I wasn't trying to make him seem like the victim in all of this. He was wrong in all accounts. He should have never started a relationship with a student. He ruined his career completely on his own. It sucks seeing someone you looked up to throw his life away like that and then just end it. I'll start this by saying this is all info told to me by a mutual friend. An old friend, who was 20 at the time. He was spoiled, but he wasn't an asshole. He's usually super chill and non-confrontational. He got crazy drunk at a party one night. Everything was fine and fun until his younger sister started telling him to slow down his drinking. She apparently either tried taking his keys or taking a drink out of his hand. Whatever she did, my friend ended up punching her in the face and breaking her nose. As far as me and our other friends knew, this guy had never been violent or the type to lash out. To say this shocked the people who knew him would be an understatement. Someone at the party took her to the emergency room while he tried to get in his car. Thankfully, someone else managed to keep him from driving, and he ended up drunkenly walking down the sidewalk crying. That same night, his parents called the cops on him and had him spend the night in the drunk tank. The next morning, they kicked him out of their house, stopped paying for his car, tuition, and cut off his allowance completely. He was broke within a week and was couch surfing for a few months. He allegedly got drunk and got into a fight with whoever he was staying with at the time and was back on the street. The last I ever heard about him was that he got arrested because his car was getting repossessed, and he thought it was a good idea to smash the windows of the tow truck taking his car. Knew a guy in school, was sort of friends with him but not close. We hung out a few times. He decided it would be a good idea to take his junk out and jack it in front of a group of 5 to 6-year-olds. He got done for it. His mom lost her job as she worked with kids, they had to move while he went to prison. Worked with a guy that was caught with a ton of CP on his computer. Used to do drugs with a few doors down. Coke and weed, sometimes LSD. But they were ex-heroin addicts and they got back into it. The girl injected heroin into her younger sister, 15, and killed her. They got done jailed and their kid went into the system. Wow, so sad. It sounds like you have seen a lot of tragedy. Take care of yourself. Thanks. Yeah, the 2 pedos I couldn't care less for. Don't have time for them. But that couple was good friends with they were doing so well being off the heroin, and the sister hung out at me and my GF's place, so I knew her really well. Such a sweet girl. Definitely didn't deserve what happened to her. Seen a lot worse while working in emergency surgery. But I didn't know those people personally, but yeah, seen too much. The quickest way I've ever seen someone ruin their life was drug addiction as well. But I've heard secondhand stories about gambling addicts that would make a junkie say, "Damn, that dude has a problem." Here's the worst one I ever heard. Dude had a high-profile job at a bank. Had the whole 9 yards, great family, awesome job, the works. American dream type shit. He goes to a conference in Las Vegas for his work. According to the friend who told me this, he had never gambled before in his life. In one weekend, he lost his entire life savings and his retirement account. When he got home, his wife divorced him because of what happened in Las Vegas, kicked him out of the house and got full custody of the kids. His job fired him because they considered that kind of reckless behavior unacceptably risky considering his line of work. So he lost literally everything he held in one weekend. He ended up deleting himself about 2 years later. Well-respected doctor in my hometown decided to do the Timbit challenge, seeing how many mini donut holes he could fit in his mouth at home with his buddies. In the 90s, a kid in my school district died at SHU, while doing the infamous Chubby Bunny challenge. I was honestly pretty horrified when it resurfaced and became a YouTube challenge maybe 5 or 10 years ago. I knew someone who choked and died on popcorn at a movie theater. He was a big guy too. Explaining his death to others always included their involuntary laughter since it seemed ironic. But he was a super decent guy and he was very much missed by people close to him. Dude I knew was a successful architect. When the office started doing drug tests, he quit smoking weed and started smoking crack. Weed is detectable for several weeks, crack 2 days. Lost his job, sold his house, burned through $80K in a year and ended up with a heroin habit. He dead now. A guy I knew joined the local police force. Within a week the Florida nightclub shooting happened. He commented on an article applauding the shooter and talking about how he wouldn't have responded. Ended in a huge argument with multiple people online where he spewed hate and threatened some. He lost his job and ended up being charged. Apparently some of the threats were credible. I remember that shooting well. I was living about an hour north of Orlando and my wife's sister had plans to go to that club that night with a friend, but her friend changed plans at the last minute. That change of plans may well have saved their lives. In about 3 to 4 years, a young doctor went homeless. Here in my country in Latin America, I met a fresh graduate young doctor. He had what seemed to be a noble dream, becoming a doctor in the US. He saved a lot of money for years, asked his parents some money and asked a loan all to pay for the process of becoming doctor in the US. I didn't know until then, but foreign doctors need to pass very difficult exams, they are super expensive, pay lots of preparation courses, traveling, living expenses, then you pay for clinical experience, yes, you pay to work, and the most fucked up thing, you pay for the application for medical residency, around $2,000 to $12,000 depending on how much programs you apply to per year. After spending around 4 years, not a single program accepted him into residency, and since he was foreigner the government would not allow him to get a job. He returned saddened to the country on early 2020, then COVID-19 happened, he was in lockdown, jobless, indebted, his parents passed due to the disease and became depressed and went into the streets. I heard he considered taking his own life, but didn't. I think he's slightly better, but it saddens me how things turned from good to bad by trying to achieve a dream. Had a teacher male coworker back in the day report a female teacher of harassing him at work. Pinching his ass, feeling him up, massaging his shoulders, etc. She in turn lied and said he molested her in the stairwell. We knew it was a lie because she eventually admitted to it. However, the damage was done. He was immediately terminated, no questions asked, and due to the nature of the field had his record noted, he was terminated due to accusations of molesting a coworker. He was essentially blacklisted from the educational field after just starting out and accruing massive amounts of loan debt to finish his education. He eventually lost everything and took his own life. It made the local paper. If he reported her first, why wasn't she terminated on the spot? As a woman, I hate this level of double standard. That poor guy. Calculated risk for the company. In a case with no tangible evidence, ruining his life isn't going to make local or national news. It will fall right in with the majority of cases because that's more believable in society. When people lie, everyone loses. My cousin, like 3 days ago, took him less than a month, meet a woman on the internet, decided to date her. She is a manipulative person, tried to cheat on him with a friend of one of his friends. Like a week into the relationship, all his friends come to tell him what happened and that she was a cheater, decided to leave her. He never did and was secretly with her, then appears one day in my house crying because she said extremely abusive things, and now I'll leave her for real. He didn't. Now she harassed my aunt and presented false claims against some others of my family members. Some got accepted by the corresponding organizations even when they were a lie, and while nothing is serious, everyone got mad. Now he is in this abusive relationship with no family or financial support, and we got to know a few days ago that the woman is so crazy that a mob boss has a vendetta against her. I'm 100% my cousin will end dead for an ugly and crazy woman. When I was 18, all of my friends moved into one house together to get out of home in a way they could afford. It was great and chill, and I have amazing memories from the first few weeks. The place was a total party house, which is fine and normal for a bunch of teenagers with new freedom, right? Things escalated a bit too quickly though, especially once dealers started spending every night there. These once good-hearted kids were now stealing, fighting and selling their bodies themselves out to get their fixes. A lot of them turned to dealing themselves. I got the fuck off of there and never looked back after I saw someone get curb stomped. I genuinely don't know and kind of don't want to know where these friends are in life, but I think of them often. The ones I've bumped into look like shit, to be honest. Kids, be smart about what you're doing and who you're doing them with. Shit like heroin and meth causes permanent changes to your neural pathways, and I've seen firsthand how that changes someone's value system. Really think about if that's who you want to be and if it's worth it for you before you go down that road. In 1997, my uncle Terry beat 2 cops within an inch of their lives, after they came over to investigate a home invasion. He was arrested, and was sent to prison for 35 years. He died in 2017 of stomach cancer, still in prison. Terry maintained at the trial, and every day after his conviction, that he walked in on those 2 cops raping his 7-year-old daughter. His daughter says the same thing, now that she's old enough to know what happened to her. Ruined his life. Ruined his family's life. They had to move to a different state to get the cops to stop harassing them. Child diddler cops were made out to be heroes and celebrated all over the press. Last I heard, one of them was running for sheriff. My first thought was that he could have gone another inch and been the only person talking. I'm to understand it took 3 cops to stop him, and they fucked him up, but good. He locked the door, but they broke it down. A couple more seconds and he would have been the only person talking. I feel like there are way more corrupt cops than not. Get this. In my hometown there was a gas station robbery murder of the working attendant. 2 or 3 guys went to prison over it. Fast forward a couple years later and I start dating a guy from high school. We married, and after some years together, our relationship staled. I ran into a guy from high school who was best friends with one of the guys who went to prison for that gas station murder. He informed a mutual friend to tell me the story of the murder. Apparently my husband, now longtime ex, actually had a lot to do with that gas station robbery, and he had written a letter to the prosecution informing them that this man, my ex, deserved charges too, and told them, I'm guessing, more details than he even told my mutual friend about. But this letter was full detail of everything he knew of how my ex had something to do with the murder and deserved to go down with the rest of them. Him and this other guy both got away with something. So, this letter? What happened to it? Well, my ex, his uncle was the chief of police. So everyone who received this letter just couldn't believe it, and they threw it away and it went nowhere. I mean, instead of allowing his nephew, which honestly he couldn't care less about, go down for murder and taint the family name, he dead-ended that letter. And it was all true. My ex was like the getaway car for the actual guy who pulled the trigger, while all the others who went to prison for the murder were basically just witnesses. Corrupt cops will end your life. Knew a guy who took a gun to our high school the day after Columbine. Immediate expulsion. The full spiral took a bit longer, but that decision ruined his life at 16 years old. Do you know why? I can imagine an idiot kid taking a gun because they were scared. No, it was because another kid was being bullied, so he took the gun as a threat to the bully. Was Columbine just unfortunate timing? Did he always plan to do it, but after Columbine the punishment was worse? I think it was unfortunate timing, but I don't know about the severity of his punishment. Best friend from 6th to 10th grade. We both were raised in homes with drugs, alcohol, and violence. She was smart, a really good kid. We always swore our kids were never going to go through what we did and we were going to go to college. She started dating a guy that was a family friend of hers when we were 16. Older drug dealer. She got pregnant. Dropped out. Our friendship ended, but I still stayed in touch. The guy ended up with some rare blood disease, got kicked off the kidney transplant list and died from OD when the kid was a toddler. She has 3 kids now, 2 with another guy that apparently beat the crap out of her before they broke up. She ended up with a record because the cops busted her family for drugs while she was around and they all went down for it. That first guy literally destroyed her life and her future was so bright. Being seduced into a cult. Quit her job, disowned her family, disowned her boyfriend, me, lost her home and savings, was reduced to evangelizing in the street, that is, begging for donations. Got hooked on opium and meth, fried her brain and attempted to end his life, ended up inpatient in a behavioral health care facility, that is, a mental hospital. What cult was it? It was a local thing, something like the 12 Tribes with a heavy Pentecostal flavor to it. The leader of the thing had a direct channel to God and was infallible. The way to salvation was to give everything to the church, a big house in Detroit, and obey the head honcho without question on pain of being disowned and condemned to hell. She dumped me when I refused to go to an awakening, where they spoke in tongues and such. I got the rest from a mutual friend who for some reason she was allowed to be friends with despite being an outsider. When I was in the Marines, our company commander, a captain, got arrested in front of the entire company and taken away in handcuffs for selling and distributing CP on the government computers. I don't know how long he was up to it for, not long, but the arrest just took a few minutes. Pretty fast, life-ruining event. A woman I worked with showed up to work still drunk one morning and made an offhand comment about it to someone. It was 6 a.m., and we worked in pharmaceutical manufacturing. Word got to the lead technician in her work area, and he immediately called security. She was escorted out and breathalyzed. Given what she blew, it's amazing that she was even able to drive to work. She was given the option of rehab or lose her job. She opted for rehab, didn't go, and was spotted at bars several times by various people. I was hanging out with a lot of weird insufferable geeks as a teenager. I was one too. We were kind of in a band. We had a lot of fun skipping school and making music. One of my friends was a musical genius, amazing guitar player. His band was actually taking off. They had just released a CD on a pretty decent label. He started doing amphetamines, got kicked out of the band, sold all his guitars, amps and computers, and then set his house on fire and stabbed his grandpa, all in the span of about 2 weeks. Last time I met him randomly, he told me he was out of jail and living in a derelict van with his boyfriend. A few years ago I kept this guy at an arm's length. Repeatedly turned him down because I already knew what he was about. I gave in after 6 or 7 months of his persistence. It was downhill from there. Moral of the story. Don't go back on your gut instinct. ETA, this was years ago when I was at my worst. Since leaving this man, I took some time to get myself back together and made some really great decisions for myself. I'm almost done with my first degree and headed to nursing school, engaged to a phenomenal man, and 6 months pregnant with my first child. Second moral, someone who ignores your no, repeatedly, for months, when you aren't together won't get better about respecting it later. Facts. That basically how it went. Got love bombed and then it blew up. I knew this chick when we were in the Navy. She was high on acid and sitting on the balcony railing 1 story up. When she was laughing, she flipped over and landed funny on her back. She is now paralyzed from the neck down and was given a OTH, other than honorable discharge. Saw similar in the Air Force. Female drunk and flipped off a 2nd story railing. What saved her was landing in a mud hole after several days of rain left the ground soggy. My ex got addicted to heroin, lost his job and then abandoned me and our 3 kids in a parking lot of the hotel we were living in. We are safe now, but I don't know anything about him. He was just gone. How long has it been? Glad you and your kids are safe and out of that situation. I hope you have all the support you need. Thank you. We are okay now. Google him periodically. If you're in the US, the kids can be eligible for Social Security when he dies. Oh. Thanks for that info. Meth. I know a guy who went from a great job, great wife, savings, car, house to having none of the above in 6 months. 18 months later he had lost a lot of teeth and looked 30 years older. Just under 2 years and he was dead. I know a girl who was a straight A student from a good family, had her whole life in front of her. One day she tried meth. Her life spiraled out of control. She served multiple stints in prison and last I checked she was on the run for violation of probation on her latest drug charge. Don't do meth, kids. Blow the whistle exposing white-collar crimes. I did it knowing it would ruin my life so that the criminals responsible would no longer be able to ruin the lives of others. And now, is your life ruined? I'll never be hired in my career field again, so in a certain way, yes. A neighbor in his early 30s. He was a master welder, had bought a new house, had just opened his own shop, and was engaged. He worked hard and we were very impressed and happy for him. Was on his way to the cabin for the weekend when he hit some loose gravel on the highway, dropped his motorcycle and was hit by a passing car. Although he was wearing a helmet, he suffered a very severe brain injury. After recovery he had lingering brain problems and his personality changed. He forgot how to weld, his fiancée left him and he lost the shop and house. He had to move in with his parents and couldn't work again. He lost everything from that one event. Very sad outcome for this amazing guy. A friend from high school who was raised very Catholic and who had severe mental health issues got baby fever during college and would sleep with any guy she could get her hands on in order to get pregnant. Luckily, the one who did it turned out to be pretty decent, and they're married. Pregnancy destroyed her back and left her with crippling chronic pain, but because she's too Catholic for birth control, she just had her second. She really wants to leave the dad because he honestly sounds like a shit partner and shittier parent, but she can't because logistically being a single parent with a toddler and a newborn doesn't work, and even if it did, divorce is too expensive. To give you an idea of the speed at which she did this, we're the same age and I just graduated college and am about to move into my first apartment by myself. Edit, I want to be clear that she's honestly a good person who got dealt a bad hand. She had severe mental health issues in high school and no access to therapy, as well as an undiagnosed seizure disorder that really messed up her cognition, and this is a direct outcome of that. She now works a job, does all of the parenting, and genuinely loves her children while her husband won't get a job, plays video games all day, and is so irresponsible that she doesn't even feel like she can leave the kids alone with him. I have seen someone ruin their life in the fastest way possible by getting addicted to fast food. My younger brother was always a bit on the chunky side, but he was always active and healthy. However, when he turned 16, he started working at a fast food restaurant and quickly developed a serious addiction to the food he was serving. At first, he would eat a lot of the food for free at work, but soon he was spending all of his money on fast food, even when he wasn't at work. He would skip meals, skip school, and even skip work just so he could spend more time at the fast food restaurant. He became isolated, depressed, and unhealthy. Within a few months, my brother had gained a significant amount of weight, developed high blood pressure, and was at risk of developing diabetes. He was no longer the happy, active kid he used to be. He had become a shadow of his former self, and it was all because of his addiction to fast food. I tried to help him, but he was too deep in his addiction to see the damage he was doing to himself. It was heartbreaking to watch him ruin his life in such a short amount of time. In the end, he had to seek professional help to overcome his addiction, but it took a long time and a lot of effort to get his life back on track. Me. Alcoholism. Had a house built with my newlywed wife at 24, great job, fabulous vacations, new cars, then we tried polyamory. Divorced, then fiancée left because of her own addictions, live at home, take care of my mother with dementia, and I destroyed my liver. 10 years is all it took and I regret so many things. And I stopped by the liquor store as she was being taken to the ER tonight. I have no clue what to do or how to cope. I am so sorry. I don't even know what to say. It's life. Can happen to anyone, unfortunately. My ex was a straight A student in high school and in university. Also, a college athlete. She was incredibly talented and had a full-ride scholarship to Texas A&M, where she was pursuing nursing. A really sociable person as well. She could friends with anybody and everybody. She had no reason to need to change a thing about her life. She was doing great for herself after 2 years of university. However, she had an annoying bug in her ear, her dad. This man was the epitome of a man who peaked early in life and has been chasing that high ever since. He served the army as a young man and would never stop talking about it. He saw his army days as the greatest time of his life. Because of that, he wanted his daughter to serve. He always claimed it was for her betterment, but I know he just wanted to live vicariously through her. He used every manipulation tactic in the book on her. Kept telling her the military medical training was better than anything she could learn at school, a complete lie. He also convinced her that her athletics wouldn't last forever and she'd lose her scholarships, which was also a lie because she was damn good at what she did. Not to mention the guilt tripping he'd do, talking shit like, "The day you were born I dreamed of the day I could salute you as a fellow serviceman." She and I got into many arguments over her dad because I could see plain as day he was manipulating her. She was already 2 years through university, and her better option was to stay the course. There was no reason to change. But, she dropped out of university despite her scholarships and joined the Navy. I watched as her mental health deteriorated worse and worse. The military is not as bad as it used to be, but it's definitely not an environment where everyone can survive. She became anxious and depressed. The once confident woman I fell in love with was now a shell of her former self with little to no self-confidence. She had lost all of her motivation. Her original plan had been to just do the 4 years minimum active service and then go to med school, but last I heard from her, she was still serving because she didn't know if she'd be able to make it through med school. Her joining was what pushed us apart because she also became less emotionally available. This isn't an anti-military rhetoric or anything like that. I respect the ones who have served. This situation was a problem to me because it wasn't the right decision for her to make. She was on the course for a successful life of her own making. Now, she's on the course to being just like her dad. Serving was the only thing she ever accomplished and she'll regret that, but mask the pain by pretending those were the best days of her life. I always say if I had a time machine, I'd go back, and I'd have argued with her dad to get off her back. I should have done more for her.